Every single business owner that I know is obsessed with one thing: growth. More customers, more leads, more revenue,
more sales.
But the businesses that survive long-term are asking a different question. They're asking, what could disappear tomorrow and tank my business completely? This is what's called a single point of failure. It's the one thing that's holding up your business more than you think. So this can be anything from an ad account to an employee to a payment processor. And when that one thing breaks, so does your business. It's something you hear all the time, that a business is healthy and then goes into a tailspin basically overnight. I've spent the last 12 years building businesses. I built a 7-figure digital business as a solo operator, and that journey landed me on the front page of the LA Times, in Time magazine, and even on the floor of the New York Stock Exchange. At the same time, I was co-building Redefining Strength with my wife into a multi-8-figure company that has served more than 75,000 customers through coaching, memberships, digital products, physical products, and events. And after all of that, I think there is one rule that is more important than any other piece of advice I've ever received. And that's never build your business around a single point of failure. So in this video, I'm going to show you the 5 biggest single points of failure I see business owners create and how to avoid them. So let's start with number 1, and this is a big one, and this is your product. So why is it dangerous to have one product, especially in a time where so many people talk about you need to have a singular focus. You need to focus on just selling that one product to one person until you hit a certain point. Everything else you look at is just shiny object syndrome. But if you have one product that's 100% of your revenue, you're setting yourself up for a disaster. Where product single points of failure generally tend to hit hardest is in the high-ticket coaching space. So why high-ticket programs are so vulnerable with this is because, first one being, they generally have mistimed cash flow with fulfillment. So if you sell a package in January, you're collecting the cash up front and you're having trailing fulfillment expenses for however long the package is. But the other thing is a trust issue. You hear everybody say we're in a trust recession. If you have a suite of products that people can buy, it's an easier way to earn trust, but also take pressure off other areas of your business. If you're liquidating your ad spend with a low ticket offer, you're going to have more flexibility to bump your spend. You're going to have more flexibility to bring in customers that can ascend to a high ticket offer rather than just trying to take cold customers and turn them into buyers. If you're only running for a high ticket offer, just going for someone who's in that very small percentage of people that is already problem aware, already ready to buy, your chances of closing customers is a lot worse. So it's going to raise your acquisition costs, but it's also going to make that customer journey a lot more difficult because you don't have anything in between. What you want to really look at is building more of a product ecosystem. So I want to show you what this looks like. So when you look at these transactions, you're not just seeing one-on-one coaching. This is a suite of different products. So some of these people will buy this now and they'll turn into high ticket buyers in the next 2 or 3 months. But if you don't have that feeder system and you're only going for high ticket cold closes, you're going to run into a lot of problems. Point of failure number 2, and this is a big one, is a traffic source. So this kind of goes hand in hand with the product because I think that a lot of the advice out there is you pick one product, you pick one channel, and you master that. And then once you master that, then you add in other channels and you're adding complexity. If you try to do too much at once, this is a bad idea. And I get the theory of this. If you have Facebook working, why spend time learning YouTube? If you have TikTok working, why spend time learning YouTube Shorts? But here's the problem. If you have all of your leads coming from one place, one channel, I think a lot of people felt this firsthand when the iOS update hit in 2021 and their ads went from working to not working essentially overnight. And so many businesses basically went under just from one change on iOS. And I've been being around as long as I have. I've been through this. I started when we sold the $9 ebook with no upsells on Facebook that would just print money. And in 2016, I was like, hey, this is going to work forever. I found the ultimate secret to running Facebook ads. But things change, things shift. If you put all of your energy in one platform, you're going to feel that a lot more. So what should you do? You should be diversifying across multiple channels for both paid and for organic. And the bonus tip here is I would say if you can find one that you can even semi grab and get good at that's not a normal channel. So, for example, Pinterest is one that we use and we get a lot of traction with. It's not one that a lot of people use. Everybody's using TikTok, everybody's using Facebook and Meta. If you're able to find a channel that not a lot of other people are on, you're essentially putting yourself into a blue ocean and being able to grab viewers and eyeballs that other people aren't getting. So when you're reliant on that single channel, if your ad account gets shut down, you're screwed. If you're running reels on Instagram and the algorithm changes and reels don't do anything all of a sudden, you're screwed. If you're not diversifying and you're staying too much on one platform, you're essentially letting that platform own your audience. The more places you are, the more chances you have to own your traffic. So you can pull them into an email list, you can pull them into somewhere you can control, so you can control that buyer journey even more. Remember, you want to rent the attention, but you want to own the relationships. And the more you can bring them into your sphere from multiple starting points, the easier it's going to be for you. Single point of failure number 3 is a key employee. And so I want to separate this from a founder for the sake of this point. So if you're a service business or a coaching business, chances are it's going to be a while before the owner is able to step out of that. And that's a video for a different day, but I want to focus on employees in this point. So here's the thing about key employees. They can make a broken system look functional. So if you only have one person who knows how to run payroll, if you only have one person who understands a CRM, if you only have one salesperson who closes sales or one manager who knows how the team operates, if a person leaves or if a person gets sick, or in our case last year, we had 6 people on our team get pregnant. If that happens and you don't have the proper structures in place, you're going to be in trouble. One of the easier ways to address this at the beginning is don't use a traditional org chart. Don't structure your business like a Fortune 500 company and have overlap between departments. So this doesn't mean that you're hiring 2 people for every job. It just means there should always be someone that has a documented process. There should always be a backup person for each of the core functions. There should be clear ownership and clear handoffs. So there should be enough cross training between people that they know how the business works enough to where if somebody steps out, there's always someone that can step in to take every role. And this should not be the owner, which is why I mentioned that the founder or owner is different than the key employee person. If you have only one person that can handle all of payroll and they leave, you need to have somebody else that knows how to do it. So this is where process documentation is important, but also having that overlap within your different departments that allows different people to know how to do different things if they need to. Single point of failure number 4, and this is a fun one, is payment processors. So this is a frustrating one because you can be great at lead gen, you can be great at sales, you can have everything dialed, but if you can't process the payments, it doesn't really matter. So if you run everything through one processor, Stripe, PayPal, Shopify, Affirm, WooCommerce, one merchant account, one checkout flow, everything is fine until you get hit with a compliance review, until you get hit with, hey, your industry is now deemed a high-risk industry, and then you're screwed. So you need to make sure when you're doing these, set yourself up in a way that you can process payments in different ways. And I would say this actually links to having a product be your single point of failure, because if you're running a product ecosystem, like I talked about, you can have different payment processors for different components of the business and actually build transaction volume to where you build safety. And so to tell you a little story with this, with Stripe, we've processed tens of thousands of transactions. But with our merchant account, which we primarily process only high ticket payments with, we actually got a reserve held against our merchant account because it was deemed that high ticket coaching is a more high risk industry. So, but because we have the account with however many tens of thousands of charges, we're able to divert some of those to that and not have to deal with so many penalties. What does this look like? It basically looks like having backup payment processors. So everybody has generally a Stripe account and a PayPal account. What I would suggest too is getting a third merchant account if you can. If Stripe ever puts the hold on your account, well, they'll say, hey, we're going to hold X% of your revenue for 90 days. Or if PayPal does the same thing, and there are lots of different ways you can get a merchant account. Look around, it's not that hard to find, but you can even get a third-party processor like Square. You can use something like Samcart, where you can use their SamPay that's built in. It's still tied to Stripe, but that would be a second Stripe account that you can get directly through them. But if you're running all of your payments, everything through a single payment processor, you're just one freeze, one hold, a couple chargebacks away if you're a low transaction volume from having all of your accounts frozen. And that's a big problem if you have payroll coming up, if you can't grab that money for, 90 to 120 days. So be really careful not to have all of your payments going through one processor, especially if you're running recurring payment plans. Single point of failure number 5 is your infrastructure. Most business owners don't realize how dependent they are on certain tools they use. So we have CRMs that run our sales team and our leads. We have automations that run onboarding. We have reporting tools. We have our email management systems. We have our dialers. So together, those become essentially the heartbeat of the company. Nothing can really run unless all of those are working properly. But the problem is that most people don't have a process map where they know how everything works together. Because if one thing breaks in the chain, maybe everything breaks. If one zap stops firing because an integration isn't connected, the whole chain breaks. So you need to make sure you have process maps and have all of this documented and know who is in charge of what. And this overlaps, again, with having the backups for employees and having that org chart that's not traditional and has overlap. So you know who's auditing what, you know what the process for that audit is, you know if something breaks, who's in charge of fixing that and who needs to be told. When you ignore the infrastructure of your business, and it's an easy one to ignore if you don't have someone who's tech savvy or if you rely on something all being in one place. So if something goes down and nobody knows how to fix it, you don't have infrastructure. You need to document all these processes and make sure you have a plan in place for when that does happen. To sum this up, after 75,000 customers, stop asking the question, what's the fastest way to grow? And start asking the question, what's the one thing that would hurt me the most if it disappeared tomorrow? And then take one step at a time to start reducing risk. Look at your single point of failure for your people. Look at the single point of failure for your product. Look at the single point of failure for your infrastructure. Start documenting your processes and put a plan in place so when these things happen, because they will, that's what business is, you have a plan in place to handle it appropriately and it doesn't sink you and completely destroy your business, and it gives you the most opportunity to set yourself up for long-term success. So if you are a machete hacker, if you are an operator, if you like getting your hands dirty, be sure to subscribe to the channel. I want to do more of these videos and really get into some of the tactics and deep dive into some of the strategies you can do to bulletproof your business.